This is Carmen. She is a trout fly in Mary Orvis Marbury's book, Favorite Flies and Their Histories, which was published in 1892. I am tying her on a number 6 sproat hook. That has to do with the shape of the bend of the hook. I think it's the closest that I have today to the shape of the hooks that Mary used. I'm using both the illustration in Mary's book, which has a red and gold tail and a red rib, and the actual fly, of which I have a photograph to tie this fly. Now, she did present me with some challenges in terms of figuring out what her ingredients are. The illustration has the red, the actual fly does not. I could not find any information on why there is no red in the actual fly, even after talking with a curator at the American Fly Fishing Museum. He assured me that the actual fly, which happens to be on display at the museum branch in Springfield, Missouri, is as it was when it was found in an attic in 1960. I'm going to tie it then off of the illustration, since I want to believe that that was the intent and what the fly was intended to look like. I'm using a couple of golden pheasant crescent feathers for part of the tail, and it is a fairly short tail, so I'll just get those wrapped in with their bend pointing up, and wrap down far enough so that I can make sure that they're tied in and clip out the butt ends. I'm going to add a slip of red dyed goose shoulder. I have no idea what the intended material was. Could have been goose, it could have been duck, something else that was dyed red, or maybe even some real red feather. I had trouble deciding what to do for the rib, and I have a red rooster neck feather that I have trimmed the edges on to get them to the appropriate length, and I have given that a crew cut and am tying that in so that I can palmer it over the body. The body was a challenge also. I don't know what Mary used to get that kind of buggy gray-brown look that is very apparent, particularly on the actual fly. So I'm going to use some gray squirrel. I have a gray squirrel pelt or hide, and I'm going to just spin that onto my thread, create a dubbing noodle, and I may end up trimming out some of the guard hairs. It is a buggy body on Mary's fly, but maybe not quite as buggy as the guard hairs are going to present. So if I need to do some body cleanup to get it to look more like hers, I will do that. Muskrat would be another option, I think, or maybe some other natural furs. I really don't know what Mary used. And then I do want to be conscious of leaving plenty of room up here behind the eye to tie in the hackle and the wing. And I am going to go ahead and just kind of trim out the long guard hairs. I think it's easier to trim them once they're on the shank rather than to try to pull them out from the pinches that I pull off. the fly. I think that's fine. I'll put my hackle pliers on that red feather, and then I will palmer it wide. I want some pretty wide spiral wraps, and it's not really cooperating with the direction I want those fibers to lay down, but yeah, they're all pointing forward. Let me see if I can get this feather to do what I want it to do when I laid it on the shank. When I put it on the shank, I deliberately put it with the shiny side out, because I want those fibers to lean backwards towards the bend of the hook. And that feather is twisting and not doing what I want it to do. But I'm going to go ahead and live with it. Tie off that tip, tie under it, and clip it out. It's just kind of to me, kind of an odd something to do on this fly called Carmen. I am using a black rooster hackle, neck hackle, for the hackle on the fly. I think I found one that has the hackles that are about the right length. I will give it a crew cut as well. So I'll just pull down on the barbs at the butt end, clip those out, lay that against the shank, and wrap up over those. Again, I want to make sure I have room for the wing and for the head. And I'll put my pliers on that feather as well, grab it with pliers and try to get it to lay back with its hackles as well. And I will help that lay back when I wrap up over that a little bit with my thread. I think that's plenty of wraps. I'll go ahead and catch that feather in. And then I'll pull back on everything. Wet my fingers helps to do that. And then I can wrap back over everything, all those hackle fibers, and they'll kind of lay down a little bit towards the back, towards the hook bend. Pull out the tip. I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup here now. Some of that red hackle still sticking out up here. A lot of that will get tied in under the head, but the fewer longer fibers I have to deal with up here, the better. The final piece of the puzzle was what to use for the wings, and after some consultation and asking around, I'm going to be using the secondary flight feathers on a mallard wing that have the white tips. There is a blue iridescence in them that doesn't show up in either the photograph of the actual fly or the illustration, but we do have that black with the white tip on it, and I think these are wide enough so that I can get a wide enough slip for a size 6 hook. I want slips that are about the width of the gape, and I will kind of divide the top hackle here if I can, get that to sit down between it, measure the length of my hook and wing together, Then I will pinch the wing, bring the thread up through my fingers, and then pull straight down and straight up on that and get that to tie in. I'm happy with that. Go ahead and lift up on the butt ends a little bit here and get my thread under them. Catch them in well, and then I will clip out all the butt ends. And then start at the eye and then wrap back and build the head. The heads on Mary's flies were fairly large, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that her hooks did not have eyes. And so she had to tie in what was called gut. Although it was, and it's not animal gut, it's the innards of the silk moth caterpillar. The caterpillars were dissected and their silk pouches were opened up and the material was stretched out and twisted together and used for either the eye tied right onto the hook or a leader with an eye on it. Fortunately, we don't have to do that anymore. Our flies last much longer because that gut got brittle and broke easily. I will put a drop of diluted Goop head cement on the head. It's a pretty large eye. I don't think I'm worried about getting glue in it, but I'll clean it out anyway. And Carmen from Mary Orvis Marbury's book, Favorite Flies and Their Histories.